Alright, aloha. So for our mediation, my partner and I, Sam, we decided to draft up a game plan. We created a game plan of everything we wanted to do in our mediation, not necessarily in an order, but we just had some bullet points of things we wanted to make sure we accomplished in our mediation. And we kind of took a few of those points from our mediation cheat sheet. We kind of marked things that we thought were important and wanted to follow this general outline of what we wanted to get done before we went into our mediation, so that we both kind of had a understanding of where we wanted to go with the mediation and kind of have an idea. I mean, I think it was important. We both agreed that we wouldn't specifically have a bulleted out plan because things can change. And we definitely realized that in our mediation. But yeah, so we had like a general plan of what we wanted to get done. So I think I'll kind of go through like what we did, and I'll just kind of address like what we thought worked and what we could have done better or maybe didn't work, and now we kind of know for the future. So Sam and I, we began our mediation by introducing ourselves. We kind of sat down, we were in the room, all four of us, and we talked about where we were from, our families, and something really specific we wanted to bring up was why we came to Hawaii. So Sam and I both introduced ourselves, then we encouraged both parties to introduce themselves, and then we asked them both why they decided to come to Hawaii. We wanted to do this because we wanted to establish some like common ground. We wanted something that both could relate to, and that was something that we thought worked really well. It was kind of exactly what we wanted to happen. They both explained in their own different ways that that Hawaii is where they thought they were meant to be, and that they want to get an education to better themselves, better their families, that they were here to get an education. They were here kind of on like God's will to a certain extent, and it was just a really cool moment because that kind of brought somewhat of a connection before we dug deep and kind of dug deeper into the issue. So we thought that really worked. And then we had like a game planned out, and so we thought it would be a good idea to kind of play a quick little game, maybe get some like teamwork going, kind of continue this connection. And that's kind of where it didn't work. We realized afterwards we could have figured that out a little bit better. Both parties weren't really into it the same way. They weren't like connecting very well. And that could have been the game, like the actual game itself. It could have been like like just playing a game in general. But it didn't really work for our scenario. So that's something that we could have either left out or improved on for the future. So we did that, and then we decided to, after we kind of had our introductions done, we wanted to set some ground rules. And some of the ground rules we wrote down in our game plan were to turn off cell phones, make sure all cell phones were off, kind of put them off to the side, that there was going to be no physical activity. Nothing was going to become physical, that we would all take turns talking. And we made sure to like say that for everyone because we didn't want to talk when they were talking. We wanted to kind of show that same respect that we were expecting from them. And then we said no name calling. So we kind of set some like ground rules before we began. And I thought that was pretty good, and it worked throughout. Like everyone respected those rules, so I thought that was something that really worked for us. And then we decided that we wanted to get an idea of how each party was feeling separately. So we asked one party to leave the room for a few minutes, and that we'd call them back in, and while the first party explained their side of the issue, And then we did the same thing again. We sent that party out and had the other one come in. And that was really cool because it helped us, helped them feel comfortable without having the other party like retaliating. And we thought that really worked really well, actually. And then we called everyone back into the same room, and we wanted to have a very like fluid conversation and discussion, and but still kind of make some progress. So what we did is we listened carefully. We asked some deeper questions, and we listened to both sides. And when one side had something to say, then we would ask the other party, like, how does that make you feel? Like, do you have any comments on that? And we just started, like, digging deeper into the issue. And then we kind of, as we were digging, let me look at my game plan again, we identified some of the major issues. We identified that there wasn't necessarily a club that was the issue. It was more like a pride, and like we started just digging into something deeper. It wasn't necessarily if one group of people should have a club and one people should, like the other group should and like shouldn't, and it was kind of like going back and forth. And we identified these major issues, and we were able to kind of work through that. I think something we could have done a little bit better and didn't really work is we could have had some more specific questions drafted out before we came in. We had a few written down that we wanted answered, but we could have had a few more just kind of already written down, things that we wanted to make sure we got answers to, because there was a lull at one point where we were like, okay, and then we just kind of like, the transition was a little bit more tricky. I mean, we worked through it and it was fine, but it could have been a little bit more smooth. Then something that really worked well, and that's kind of how we ended it, was we reframed the conflict. We created a hypothetical scenario and asked one party how they would feel if this hypothetical scenario was happening to them, and did the same to the other. And it kind of helped them understand and see the other party as a person and not as an object. And it helped them kind of recognize that they are people too, and they want kind of that same understanding, and they weren't necessarily feeling that inclusion, and that's all they really wanted. They weren't striving, they weren't trying to be like create conflict, but they just wanted this like inclusion. And we were able to leave the mediation with some plans for the future to kind of move forward, and how they were going to do that, and how they were going just to kind of improve the scenario. When we were kind of wrapping everything up, we wanted to kind of wrap up on like a good note. We didn't want to leave on anything negative. So we had them, we didn't say anything. We didn't like propose anything. We let them propose what they thought they could work on to kind of create a more peaceful environment. And I thought that was really good. And I think that kind of creating like a formal like settlement really helps them feel like that the mediation was something positive, that they aren't leaving like that. I don't think anything changed, that sort of thing. I think if they have this formal settlement that they created together, that we didn't necessarily say like you should do this sort of thing, that they created, it kind of created something more effective. Like that's something that they will actually work on and be able to use in the future. But yeah, I thought overall our mediation went really well, and I thought that we had a lot of really great things that worked, and then we also learned what didn't work and things that we need to improve on as a team or personally. And I thought it went really well, and I look forward to more mediations in the future. And